Look at that roar of applause.
Oh, delight.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Fred.
No, please sit down. So I'm assuming everybody's here for the Precious Moments figurine meetup.
Oh, I sure am. All right.
No, we're obviously here for the Comic Drive panel. And with us today, I'm your host, Fred Schroeder. And with us today is Rory the Plug. And to my left is the creator of Drive, Dave Kellett.
Hi, everybody.
Who you may know from the world of Drive, but also his script Sheldon and the documentary we made together called Script. And
I'm going to call clap for that.
to his left is Beth Miller, who is our amazing colorist extraordinaire and digital artist on Drive. So let's just start off with, so Dave, you created Drive how long ago?
So someone might correct my math online, and that's unlikely to happen. People online are very unlikely to correct you when you get a fact wrong. I think it was 9 or 10 years ago that Drive started.
I believe it's 10 years this year.
It was 10 years. Oh, that's right. Because we were
It's 2009.
That's right.
It's
Beth is
September
way better at tracking.
2009, I believe.
That's right, because we're going to celebrate the 10th anniversary. So it started as it didn't even have a title.
Right.
And it was a Saturday sci-fi special on Sheldon. Does anyone remember that it ran on Sheldon? Do you honestly remember that? So it was just on Sheldon as me experimenting, and I didn't even have a title for it. I was going to call it Gravity for a long time. And then that would have been terrible competition with Gravity.
Came out.
Yeah, and then Gravity completely ruined it. Yeah. But I was going to call it Gravity for a while, and then it ended up being, I think, like 10, 13 weeks into the story, I finally came up with Drive.
How important was finding the name for that script for you to be able to move forward creatively?
Oh, that's interesting.
How important was Google SEO for your name?
Well, my advice is don't name your comic strip the same thing that Google will eventually name their storage system, because that has killed my SEO. No, but Drive was really important because I liked the idea that it was about an FTL drive, like a fast moving light drive. It was about humanity's and the continuum drive to control space, and it was about who could physically drive a ship. In this case, Skitter, that little alien that can handle a ship like no one else can. So,
I have never heard you described that way. I'm impressed, Dave.
Oh yeah,
It's really good.
All right. Single tier. That's good.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
So, how long had you been thinking about doing a sci-fi script before you actually started posting it onto Sheldon?
It sometimes happens as a cartoonist. You have signings that are gangbusters, and you're signing all day long, and your hand is exhausted, and you've met a bunch of people, and a lot of glad handing. There was a signing that Kazu Kibuishi, Chris Straub, and I, and somebody else, I don't remember who the fourth person was, did at Meltdown Comics, and nobody came. It was like Dust Bowl, like Dust.
So the
Yeah,
complete opposite of this
right now.
that's right.
It's
That's
back
right.
to
That's right.
the guild.
So anyway, we all started talking about projects that we wanted to work on, and I started explaining to Chris I clearly remember explaining to Chris some sci-fi elements that I wanted to throw together, and I started drawing a ship, and I was like, the thing about Star Trek is that ship makes no sense, but it's so cool from a design perspective. The nacelle, the disc, like no engineer would be like, this is the way we should design a ship. This makes sense. You'd be like, no. But it's cool looking. It's really cool looking. And I was like, you need an iconic shape in a starship. And I said, I've never seen a ring done before. And I like the idea that the quantum singularity would be in that ring. So that's how that got started with that signing. But that was about a year before I started Drive. Sorry, that signing.
But it was really that first drawing. So it started visually, right? Yeah.
Well, no, it started with those concepts of like an FTL drive.
Didn't you also draw like some of the characters of that?
Nosh was the first one that I did. Yeah.
Nosh.
And I think if you have the books, it's in the back of the first one, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They're very different looking though, which is really fun.
Yeah, and I think I was going to call him Gush, which is a terrible name.
Gosh.
Yeah.
No,
it's just, it's not what you want. It's not what you want. Yeah. Artistic dead ends, they exist. That was not my proudest moment as a namer. Yeah.
Okay, so you come up with the story.
Yeah.
Did you have initially an ending as well?
Yeah.
Did you map it all out?
I knew this was the first time in my life it ever happened where I knew the beginning, I knew the middle, I knew the end. There have been waypoints along the way that I did not know, and I have since fleshed out or are fleshing out. But I know how it's going to end. And you're the only person, maybe Beth knows, you're the only person that knows the ending. Actually.
Right, which is
Nope.
Yeah. So we're on as of now, which is 2019.
Right.
We're on. We finished the second act.
Mm-hmm.
You're how far into the third act? Halfway.
I would say probably a third.
Well, third is way
Yeah.
through? Yeah. Beth is far better at keeping track of
Thank God
time.
Beth is here, everybody. Let's give a
Right.
hand for
Yeah, let's
Beth.
give it. By the way, let's just go too long into the panel without saying it. The quality of the look and the feel and the design of Drive has improved exponentially since Beth has joined, and it looks and feels so much better. So thank you.
Thank you. I feel like I should gain like Drive Archivist title onto my like titles because I literally have books, so like I have a very strong, firm grasp of like what's happening.
Absolutely, it's like the Lucasfilm archivist that knows all the arcane things about Han Solo. Yeah,
professional nerd.
Yeah. One of the things that Beth had to do was put together that massive timeline at the end of Act 2, which is super helpful.
I gained
But
some gray hairs off that one.
It was the worst because I would come and be like, "Oh, I just remembered that planet wasn't discovered until 10 years later." And she'd be like, "I want to kill you!
I have to read
It
the
just
whole
takes so
thing."
long to relay this out." So anyway, what was your next question?
Well, we're at Act 3.
Okay,
Is this the end of this cycle, or is there Act 4?
I'm using that classic 4 arc cycle. I believe the Greeks used it best. That classic 4 arc cycle. No, it's probably going to end up being, if I'm honest about it,
4 to 9 books.
What's that?
4 to 9 books.
4 to 9 books. Yeah, we're gonna end up being like that manga book that's on like chapter 942. What is that one? What's that? One Piece.
I'm gonna have to finish it for you when you die.
Exactly. Yeah, just passing it along. No, I think it's going to end up probably at 4 chapters, which is not an intelligent way to do it, or 5 chapters. 5 acts.
Or 5.
4 or 5 acts, yeah.
And then do you have maybe a storyline after that? Or,
yeah, actually. Well,
okay.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And that's part of the discovery process is that there is a story that came in the end of Act 2, and I told you about it, that I have that will probably take place about 10 years after this story ends, but in that universe.
Wow.
Which is exciting because I thought this was a complete, like standalone story, and it's kind of fun as a storyteller to be like, oh, wait a minute, I think there's something else we could tell.
And that one's a musical, right?
It is a musical. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Okay,
it's going to be
One-man
gorgeous.
show.
You're going to love it. It's a sight and sound sensation. It's going to be delightful.
I
all
can't
cats.
wait.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
So Beth, you started out as a reader, right?
Yeah.
Of Drive. Were you a fan of it? You don't have to.
This is amazing.
I was more of a reader Sheldon. I was tangentially aware of Drive, but then obviously caught up when I had to start working with it. No, I had the magnets at my desk on my crappy job before anything.
I think we first met 13 years ago?
2006.
2006. And Beth was a reader of Sheldon, right?
Yeah.
At Emerald City Comic Con. And then
it's like second or third year.
And then I remember you saying like, "Hey, I'm about to go to art school. Hey, the next year can I show you some of my art?" And then
I never offered because you and I are both in the like I do not want to I don't want to put anyone in an awkward stage, and you're like, please don't put it on. So I never offered. 1 year you asked to see my stuff, and I was like, it's happening. It's all happening. Yeah.
So
it worked out great.
what is your so going from as a reader of Drive before, and you were doing it solo before, is that right?
Yeah.
How does your process work now? Like, what do you do? What does Beth do? How do you guys collaborate?
Oh yeah. So and you can correct me if I have any of this wrong. I will do the writing, and every once in a while I'll pitch like names.
They're like, what's a good reference? That's funny.
like I need like a historical reference.
Can I jump in? When you're doing the writing, is that purely text? Are you drawing at the same time? Because comics are
Yeah.
Or so I hear. I've never read a comic.
I'm not familiar. I don't know how the
familiar,
medium
but
works.
from what I've heard,
There's two ways that I write a story. If I know I need visuals, I have that very large sketch pad that I sometimes write in, and that allows for a lot of loopy arrows and quick sketches and stuff of scenes. And then sometimes if I know it's a very dialogue-driven, almost comedic sketch type of a comic page, I will just type that one out. So if it's more of an SNL type page, that just gets typed. If it's more crazy visuals that need to be workshopped, I'll physically write it out.
And how do you do the weekend update segments?
It's mostly riffing.
Mostly riffing.
Just all Stefan.
Yeah.
It's all Stefan jokes.
But anyway, so as far as how we work, so then I'll lay that out. I'll lay out that text in Photoshop. I'll start sketching, and now what I like, because I like to get the pages out as quickly as possible. So what I do is once I've finished 1 panel, 2 panels, 3 panels of like 6 to however many panels, I'll be like, all right, Beth, the file's on Dropbox.
I'm sure there's a better way of doing
There's got to be a better way to do this.
Someone is like, oh my gosh, I can't. He literally saves the file with like the title and then underscore Beth and then one's underscore Dave. So he's working the Dave one, I'm coloring the Beth one, and then like I copy the layers into his as we go along. Like it's it's clunky.
If you guys are working like at the same
usually
time,
because it gets it out so much faster. A lot of times it's like kind of last minute Friday. Like we need to get this out, and so like I'll be coloring like panel by panel as he is drawing panel by panel.
It's a monochrome.
It is.
Strip, right?
Yes, it is all blue.
All blue.
For the listeners on Patreon who don't know what they're looking at. It's all blue.
But there are variations within that.
Yeah,
right?
so we actually have on what's it called on Photoshop? They're called palettes.
Swatch palette.
Oh boy, swatches on
It's been
Photoshop.
a long day. And we've had out.
It's only 2.5 days into Comic-Con. So we have swatches. Photoshop is an Adobe product. We have 10 swatches on Photoshop that are dry blues, and it's from 10% blue to 100% blue and white, and it's the same colors we use all the time, which have actually changed since Act 1. I've noticed that Act 1 there are some like greener blues that are in there sometimes, but then it got standardized.
Yep.
To the same colors.
One of the reasons, but anyway, to get back to the point, one of the reasons why we pass the files back and forth is that it's really fun when I've drawn the last panel, whether it's this tall strip or this tall strip, to get to the end, and Beth has the whole thing done within 10 minutes of me finishing my final panel. The whole page is done. Like that's really satisfying. It's honest to God. Oh, she's way better faster than I am. But also, like, exactly. So she's gonna do is do all the colors. But it's really satisfying and a rush of serotonin to finish something, and you have immediate feedback on it within 10 to 15 minutes. And I've gotten addicted to that. It's really fun to get the feedback. Like
it's
right
really
away.
fun when you do panels that are more dramatic. Like I don't know, maybe it was 3 or 4 weeks ago we did that really big dramatic stabbing panel. Where, what's the guy who you drew got killed? One of the Patreon backers got murdered in a back Patreon. You might get murdered. But it was it was a really fun dramatic panel, and you were just like, I don't know, this is kind of what I'm feeling like, and I just had fun with it, and it was super fun to
So Beth, are you also adding effects in Photoshop on that art? Like it's not just tones, but you're also adding.
Yeah, so usually I'll block out the backgrounds just so that I have something to clip to, and then I'll usually just flat out the characters because they have their like normal shades, unless it's like a very dramatic, like this is a dark scene where they're going to be
the
like,
lighting is really strong.
If they're going to be like 3 shades darker, then I'll do that. But usually it's their normal shades, and then I'll go over and do like any kind of background effects or blood splatters. But it's not a very violent comic. I don't know why I keep doing that.
Yeah, no, it's just not the one comic that had blood splatter.
That one blood splatter.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then do any like
that one.
it was fun. But yeah, and like a couple of planets that I've gotten to do that are really fun.
Yeah, planets.
Any of the space scenes are super fun, or like any kind of like smoke coming out behind a planet or a spaceship or whatever. Using the Kyle brushes on Photoshop, they're great.
Now, I think it was about 5 years ago you opened up the Tales for the Drive.
I wouldn't know offhand, but it's a few.
Oh, I actually don't know that one. Sorry, I didn't work on. I didn't work on the Act 1 book, so I'm not.
I think it was about 5 years ago. We went out to Dylan Comics, right? To do the first.
Yeah, she did the first one. You're right. Yeah.
So with that, with other writers and artists working on it, do those files come back to you? Do you guys work on those at all? Or is it
Yeah,
all
so
about-
as far as the direction that I give for Tales of the Drive, for those of you that might not be familiar, are individual standalone 8 to 15-page stories set in that Drive universe, right? And I thought it was fun to open up the world to other artists. And I'll share this with you just because it's fun on the side. I got an email from Bill Watterson one time. He's like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you letting other artists play in your world?" I was like, "I thought it was fun, Dad. Why are you?" He's like, "This is weird. I don't like this." So.
Can we just acknowledge that Bill Larson versus Drive? That's incredible.
Apparently not happily though.
Whereas Jim Davis' email was like, "This is a great
He's
idea."
like, "Look, Chef
Can
Kiss,
you
this is great. I love
Can you
this."
get Jim Davis
exactly
to do a
like-
Drive?
I may have emailed Jim Davis and he didn't reply. So
Just
because I
want
thought it
space-
would be great to have Jim
space
Davis do
cats
a
would be
Drive
great.
story.
Have you
Anyway.
seen Nosh's eyes?
It's right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the only direction that I give to Tales storytellers, I was like, just stay away from Orla's backstory and Skitter's backstory. Those are the only two that you can't touch for reasons that will eventually become clear. And so they're allowed to do, for the most part, whatever they want, as long as it's in with sort of a PG-13 setting. And everyone, like, I had a completely different way I had two aliens, the Vitans and the Teskans, to have a war. It got settled, and Ryan North came in with a completely different way, and it was better. And I was like, this is great. This is what art should be when it's collaborative. When someone has a better idea, their idea wins. And Ryan, absolutely, yes, we'll write that story. And he wrote it, and it was one of my favorites. And so they send in the pages. Every once in a while, rarely, I will change or ask them to change something that's canon, a tiny little detail that's like, ooh, just don't do that. And then they'll fix it. But,
Can I say that Mike Norton's is my favorite?
yeah, Mike's
It's
great. I want to
so
have Mike
good.
back to do another one.
I look
It's
at those
great.
pages every now and then when I have to like go through the book to find something, and they just blow me away. Like his battle scenes look effortless, and
Mike Norton does
so
Battlefront.
Yeah. So he knows how to write battle
He's-
scenes, but
a beautiful.
it's incredible.
Yeah,
storytelling.
it's
So
great.
And the story itself is like
Yeah.
heartbreaking, and then you're like, oh
Yeah,
my
it's
god.
really, he got a lot done in 10 pages.
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
incredible.
Yeah.
On a slightly nerdy technical level, you give them technical specs.
I do. Yeah, I give them a template of the Drive page size. I give them all the fonts if they want to use fonts, of which there's like 5 or 6 that are normal. And then I give them the color palette swatch that we use. And I give them, that's better. But yeah, that's all you need to get
Yeah,
going.
because the color is incredibly, pretty consistent.
Yeah.
For those,
Yeah.
even though they're making them,
Yeah.
offset.
So the only one that I've actually seen come in fresh in the past 2 years I worked with was the Gear Hero one.
Yeah, definitely.
That was the last one that ran because I think the other ones you had already pitched out to by the time I got around. But that was really cool to see because you wrote the script on that one, which is the first time you did that.
Yeah, it's the first time I did. You know why? Just because I just wanted to write a story that
It was so
carried
cute.
through.
It was super fun.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with the duo in Kyoto, I think. That they're amazing. They do amazing Marvel stories. And I just wanted to write there for them. And that was really fun.
So it was cool to see their pages come in, and they have a translator too because they're Japanese, and so like the go between that and like see how that goes, and then like
Because I had written like certain hipster cues that some of them didn't translate at all to Japanese, but whatever came back, I was like, this is great. I love this. This is amazing. I'm happy that this is your vision of what an American hipster thinks. It looks like this is great. So
you said that Orla and who else is off limits?
Skitter
Skitter.
are off limits.
After this first cycle ends, would you let somebody touch these characters?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it'll be really evident why I didn't let them touch them once the final acts are laid out. Yeah. And we're on to the second story. Yeah.
Do you have a personal favorite character in Drive?
Yeah. It rocks back and forth between Nosh and Kato because they're both joy-filled, but in different ways. One is joy-filled for friendship and food and family, and the other one is joy-filled for art and creativity and things of beauty. And it's just there are aspects of my personality, So.
Beth, you have a favorite character?
I really like the astronomer Philipod
royal
because
astronomer? Yeah.
pitching on those pickup lines is delightful.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
is-
yeah.
that is one of my favorites.
So
Running
for as far
jokes,
as like when Beth is involved in the writing process, I was like, give me the best
So I'll be
worst
like
pickup
googling
lines
like
you've
bad
ever-
pickup lines and just reading through it.
And we were just laughing for a half an hour at like the worst pickup lines ever.
fantastic.
It was a really fun day of writing that day. Yeah.
do you think you would ever do another strip? So you do Sheldon, you do Drive.
Yeah.
Do you think you would ever do another story?
Unfortunately, yes. And I say unfortunately because I want to do it right now, but I can't be of service to Drive and do a third one.
Just say, as your assistant, who is constantly being like, hey, have you done a Drive yet? It's Thursday afternoon. Maybe it's
Friday at 4:50, and I've got to leave.
Like, please don't do another trip.
No, I don't think I'll do another one anytime soon. Yeah.
Okay. You want to finish Drive?
Yeah, and I want to finish. I also want to work on another project that Fred and I are going to do. It's top secret. Well, we can mention a little bit about it. Well, I'll just mention to you guys. Fred and I did Strip 4 years ago, which is a documentary on comics, and we're starting a new one-on-one interview show called Storyline. That's going to be I'm going to be interviewing cartoonists by the fireside, glass of wine, living room, hour chats, and we're really excited to do it. We filmed the first 2 so far, and they came out really good. I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
we'll see what people think.
Hopefully, this time next year we'll be doing a panel about that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. But anyway, so that's the only other project that I'm undertaking. Oh, I see what you did now. You were feeding for that. Now, I'm picking up on it.
You know, I'm smarter than I look, which is not hard.
If you don't know what Fred looks like, he is the living embodiment of the Cats trailer.
Wow. That was a sick burn. If ever I've heard one.
What is it? Rum Tum Tugger, whatever it's
Rum Tum Tugger. That was my cosplay today.
Oh man, Rum Tum Tugger.
Okay, should we open it up for questions?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Oh my god.
If anybody has any questions, yeah, you can jump over.
One at a time, guys.
Oh, slow it down. Look at that, walking in front of the camera.
Such a long line. Oh my gosh.
Slow it down. Slow it down.
All right.
Yes, the gentleman in the Skeletor shirt.
Oh, yes.
Is that Skeletor? It's Skeletor 87.
I mean, I feel like I come
on a
with
tour, like a fake.
That's
anyway.
amazing. That's amazing. All right.
So actually, I was going to ask, and you brought it up, how many acts we're going to get to the end of the story. So
Asked and answered.
Asked and answered.
Sir, please sit down.
What is your favorite Drive moment? Not necessarily like a whole mini story, but maybe a single
that's
page.
A great question. My single page, because it was like 100 and something pages in the making, and I was so excited to do it, there was the small Vin that they've captured, that's offensively named Vinny. He is not fully vocal yet, or not fully vocal at all, and so is trying to communicate with crayon drawing, and draws a picture of what they think was a rocket ship, and everybody's talking about it. Rockets are their missing god, the Vin. And at the very end of Act 2, when they flip the page over, and I was really excited. I was like a kid on Christmas. I was so excited for that one, to reveal that one, and that to me was the best moment. Why? Do you have a favorite? What was the favorite for you? Like, when it's done, that's my favorite.
Well, I mean, when I first started reading it, I think weirdly enough, it was just the panel of the ship in space. There was, no dialogue or anything. There weren't any characters. It was just the ship in space, and that was a panel where I was like I'm really into the mythology of the story at that point, and that was when I was like, I think I spent like a couple of days burning through everything, like the whole story.
Oh, that's fun. Thank you, man.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely. There's a lot of it. I feel like I need to reread it to pick up, because also like you have the encyclopedia pages and so much information in that it's almost impossible to keep on.
Yeah, how did the encyclopedia pages come about? What was the idea for that?
So the truth of that is, I always loved universes where if you really like it, you can dive in, and if you semi like it, you can skip those type of pages and you can skip that part of it. So if you like The Watchmen, but you don't want to read the pirate ship tale, you can skip the pirate ship tale. But if you really want to dig into it, you can find the parallels, right? And then also, nerd out for a minute here, when I was a kid, G.I. Joe had little data cards on the back, and Transformers had little data cards with that hologrammy type thing on the back.
Yeah, because Optimus Prime has like 100
Yeah,
Optimus
Prime was like Megatron.
Megatron has like 80 powers, so like Optimus Prime is way more powers than
Optimus.
Way more powers than.
Anyway, so like as a kid, but anyway, as a storyteller, I thought there's fun in having data that can be lined up from different species, different what their, for lack of a better phrase, power sets are. Like, who are the smartest aliens? What have they accomplished? How did they evolve? Why did they evolve the way they evolved on their planet? Like, that's kind of fun. It's kind of like Star Wars has those encyclopedia pages or books where you can look at the ships, or you can look at backgrounds of planets and dive deep. And I was like, well, you know what? In the storytelling, there's nothing wrong with having that Victorian style, like found letters, found torn out pages. Like my initial idea, I don't know which one of you asked this, but my initial idea was I was also going to have radio snippets of crashed ships that had signal, and you would be navigating through the story, and then all of a sudden you'd have the and we're having trouble on, and we were going to do radio play stuff. And I was like, we talked about that, and I was like, the HTML problems, but yeah, we're going to do it with my father-in-law, who's obviously a native Spanish speaker, and we were gonna have him record messages as though he were from the Emperor, and it was going to be fantastic.
I'm now trying to envision the Emperor with Juan's voice, and it's pretty incredible.
Right? Wouldn't he be a great Emperor? Yeah. He has an incredible voice for radio.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. I like the idea of, but anyway, I like the idea of found objects.
Yeah.
And I like how, with not a huge amount of effort, it can reveal a lot more in the world.
Right. Well, we talk a lot about Dune.
Yeah, a lot about Dune.
Maybe more than anybody should. But it always reminded me of the chapter heading to Dune.
Yeah. Can I tell you? I'm so glad you brought that up because I completely forgot that absolutely influenced with Drive. You would get like little quotes from some found book or someone's personal biography that wasn't revealed for like 300 years after like the story of Dune took place. And that was Frank Herbert is a genius, and that was a genius. Obviously it was a callback from him from Victorian novels, but it was brilliant.
I think
it built that world out so good.
Right, and I think we probably read Dune around the same age, and it really like sticks with you.
Oh yeah, and I read Dune 20, 30 times. It sticks with me all the time.
And then putting all those pages and all the other found objects together in that ebook that we do for Patreon, I think is really cool. Just to have, because otherwise you have to navigate through a website. Navigatable ish. To find them, to like read back up on them, because they are very dense and they're very interesting. And so it's nice to have it in that.
You're saying people
should back on Patreon, which this is going out to Patreon, so it's a little bit.
It's a little bit self-defeating, but so the fun thing that I don't think I've ever told this anywhere. One of the things that I really want to do when the story is done is I want to have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5, whatever it is, in the bound books, and then I want to have a bound book of all the tale stories, and then I want to have a bound book of all the reference material, because I think it'd be so cool.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's going to be like a $5,000 set. Like it's going to be too dang much. No one's going to buy it, but I want to make it just for me, and I'll go bankrupt making it.
Want to top Tolkien and his appendices.
Yeah, exactly. Useless. But I think that would just be a really cool way to present the story in bound books in a nice slipcase.
Also you do interesting stuff like you have join the Drive ports. You do like advertising and propaganda together, which also feel like these found objects.
Yeah, the use of imperial propaganda is fun because it's fascistic a little bit.
Right.
It's a little bit Soviet. It's fun to do.
And in the second book, we made 2 just for the book too, right? Was that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really fun to research, like various, basically Soviet propaganda.
Yeah.
Like how can we how can we twist that to a Drive thing? There was actually one poster that we basically copied exactly.
Yeah, we can tell you it's the hand launching a ship. It was a beautiful Soviet propaganda
gorgeously,
poster. And we're like, this has to be redone. We've never seen it before too.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Like, I don't think the West sees it a lot. Anyway, did you have a follow-up?
I just had one more quick question.
Yeah.
So when this is done, Act 4, Act 5, is the next story you're going to tell, is that going to be similar to what they're talking about for what happens in Star Wars afterwards, where it's in the universe but none of the characters that you've seen before can exist anymore? Like you're going to move away from all the characters that you've written into something completely new but in the same universe, or are we still going to see the characters that we know?
No, it's going to be exactly like the Jar Jar movie that everybody has wanted for this one, and
the Jar Jar that we've all secretly
wanted. Jar Jar wanted that story to be told.
Jar Jar meets Taz.
Just
Jar Jar meets Rum Tum Tugger. No, Misa thinks you had a good idea. So it's funny to say that like just a casual. No, Misa thinks that you have. No.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So the answer is, without giving away too much, it's something that I'm wrestling with at the moment because all the characters 5 or 10 years on, but they are in disparate locations. And how do you do it where, like, Tolkien very cleverly married old characters with new characters, but in a way that felt familiar, and they were in new situations, but you were happy to see them in the new situation. And so, what do you do when Fernando has been assigned to a different ship, or Nosh is now working for the Science Center? And how do you get them back together? And so that's a tricky dance. This is just part of the creative
It's
process.
the Blues Brothers. How do you get the band back?
Yeah, how do you get the band back together? And so,
Or Blues Brothers 2000.
No.
Right? Yeah.
so the first chapter, and this is just my guess at this point, the first chapter of that story will probably be, in true times of crisis, you turn to the people that you trust. And so even if they're far away on a different planet, you'd be like, hey, Nosh, can I call you real quick and get you involved in it? And that's how we would probably get back together. So anyway, yeah, next thing.
Yeah. So Drive is written in an interesting dimension, basically a square layout that you did. I just wanted to know a little bit more about not just the design decision to do that, but also as media has changed over the last decade, have you found advantages and disadvantages to that dimension?
I've definitely found disadvantages. I don't know that I have found advantages per se, other than I've always liked that format. I, for whatever reason, am not a particular fan, thank you, of the slightly taller comic book, and that's probably an unpopular opinion. I don't know. I don't.
So if you don't know, a Drive is an 8.5 by 9, so it's half
It's
inch off from
almost
the square.
square.
It's
It's
very
almost
close.
square.
Yeah.
It's virtually square.
Right.
And
But you do double shifts a lot.
yeah, so and that's to my advantage, is that working digitally, I can say, you know what, this week's script is 3 pages tall, and I just do it so that it's divisible by itself and can be laid out in pages. But what was I going to say? So the disadvantages are sometimes the individual panels are more squat than they would be for a taller comic page, where you can have, if you think of like an X-Men, the top third is text and the bottom 2/3 are visuals. Sometimes I have to, if the text is too heavy, I have to go half to, and that's no good on a short.
Yeah.
What other disadvantages do we have?
I mean, distribution is a little funky because
Distribution is
comic book
funky,
shops don't want that size.
Yeah, and it's not like Drive is ever going to be in a comic shop because I don't sell that way, but it does make for a weirder book that most stores don't want. So yeah, that's a good question. No one's ever asked me that before.
Do you ever have trouble when you've laid out something digitally, and then when you go to reformat it for a text, like for a printed book? Do you ever have to rearrange panels or?
The books are the same size as the web format, basically.
But with those, because sometimes you do a double.
Oh yeah.
page.
No, he does them exactly so that you can actually split them at the
Yeah,
at
so
the
if you
gutter.
imagine that this is the comics page,
This is great for audio.
this is terrible for audio, but this is a double tall page, and then when we go to lay it out, I
Yeah,
laid
it
it out.
splits at a gutter exactly. So
Dave is doing some
There's some
incomprehensible
puppetry.
Yeah.
So if it's a double tall, it's exactly 2 tall. If it's a triple
Right.
tall, it's exactly 3. So like I split it at the gutter, copy it.
And so no artwork will cross that 1/3 line.
Right.
Yeah.
What I like about that is it feels also like a Sunday comics
Yeah.
installment,
Mhm.
and it has that flow where each page works in and of itself.
Yeah.
But then when you read it in the book, it also flows very nicely from page to page, which is an interesting format that I don't think a lot of people do because they do the more vertical heavy format.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the square format. would be
And you know what?
that
One thing I've never
comic
mentioned
strip.
too that is probably worth mentioning is, as far as advantages, one thing that I lifted from Scott Kurtz, so Doc the Cap to him, is the bubbles floating above the panels so that they can cross over if need be. And that's sort of my cheat for when things are too squat, is I can basically cheat it around the page so that you can still get good visuals in each panel. So that's
Yes, sir.
You use various shades of blue, but I'm curious, when thinking about Drive in your mind's eye, do you ever see it in more color? And if you do, what color is not?
That's a great question.
Thanks so much.
That is a great question.
We've been asked this a couple times about like what color people are.
Closed.
I just flip the table and I run out screaming.
We were asked one time by a crochet artist who wanted to crochet Nosh what color he was, and we were like,
Yeah, did we eventually tell her gray?
We told her like a green,
gunmetal
like
gray
a
or
green gray.
gray,
Yeah. Which
So I think Nosh is kind of a green gray. And in my mind's eye, philopods are all a little bit sorbet or sherbet, and various colors like that. And yummy.
they probably taste like
Makers are. I had a color for them. I'm
really?
blanking on it. Yeah. An unattractive green. I think it was.
like kind of pukey green.
Yeah, pukey green,
Yeah.
like a lizard that you don't want to be around.
Fun.
Yeah, delightful, right? And then so that's better. And then
yeah.
Tuscans are very desert hided animals. So like a rhino, but with like desert sand color.
It would be, and I am not. This is not me volunteering to this, but it would be once it's done. It'd be really interesting to have it recolored, like totally recolored. But I think it would be like a radio play being turned into a movie situation where like everyone's like, "That's not what I saw in my head."
Exactly.
So,
Although I did like it when Jeff Smith did that with Home, where it went from black and white to color.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
But in fun news, Beth and I have a fun little project in terms of color for Drive that we're not going to reveal what's going to happen, but you'll see it when you see it, and you'll be like,
You'll know it when you
those
see it.
bastards. I see what they did. Yes.
What
What a
that-
tease.
That question made me think of, all right, so obviously dreaming big. Let's say that Drive becomes like a live action series or something. Would you see it as a series on, or would you prefer it as movies? And then the follow up to that is, would we get to see your version of these characters in color prior to the show if the show were to happen? Like, would we get any of that on Patreon before we see it?
That's a great question. So we've talked about this, but I see it very much as a series rather than as a movie. I don't know that it would work as a movie. Because there's too many little threads that need to be woven together, and a movie just would do that. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
The Drive cinematic universe.
20 movies? Yeah.
Nine or 10 Drive movies.
No, listen. While we're shooting the moon, I just honestly I see it as kind of a Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime kind of
But not sci-fi.
a show, but not sci-fi.
We need more budget than that.
Yeah, I need a little bit more money to play with. But no, but the honest to God truth is, as a creator, I would be somewhat removed from the process as soon as I give it over to Amazon. And we all know how that works in Hollywood. Is that they would probably consult with me. They'd have some initial consultations and color questions and design ideas. But frankly, the scene painter would figure out what the scenes are going to look like. The costumer would figure out what the costume is going to look like. And so I would like to see it live action with CGI, but we'll see, And this again, shooting the moon. 9 times out of 10, there's no way it's going to happen. But
Every now and then I see like an older lady actress in something. I'm like, oh, that'd be a great casting.
yeah, in
Jean
fact,
Smart. That's
the
my
Ballad
captain.
of Buster Scruggs, the final one with Tyne Daly.
Oh,
And I was like,
great.
she would make such a good captain. If she had the right hairstyle, she'd be an amazing captain.
Yeah.
Tyne Daly is
I can see
amazing
that.
as an actress.
Yeah.
And one of the things is I want there to be a really bitchin' role for an older woman to have as a captain. I think that'd be amazing. You just don't see that, where she's kicking ass. So I think that'd be great. Did I answer your whole question? Do you have another one?
No, that was the whole thing. Well, I was kind of curious because, like you said, you're turning it over to the designers of the show, but at the same time, normally they would go to the reference material to say, all right, well, this character is, has this color hair and the costumes look like this, and they may change it. But in this case, because everything is tones of blue, it could be anything. So I'm wondering.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like,
Right.
what would I give them? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'd probably listen, in this beautiful world where I've given it over to Amazon Prime. I'd probably be under an NDA and I couldn't disclose any of the early work that I would be showing.
He's not saying this because it's already in the works.
So
That
next-
sounds- that sounds really
just to be
cagey.
clear, I'm not saying this because
Save it for next year's panel, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Andrew, that-
No, but I mean, I would love to. I would love to share that. I think I would eventually share that in the
We
way.
could probably make like some like style sheets or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the truth
I mean,
is,
really go to the crochet artist.
Yeah.
And
Bring the crochet
doing the
artist
heavy
out.
lifting.
Yeah.
That's right. America's crochet
All
artist.
of the movie on the crochet.
It has been fun though to see fan art that comes in where Nosh is red or Nosh is blue or Nosh is green or gray or skin color. That one was creepy.
Ooh, that was creepy.
Yeah, that Nosh was freaky.
One of the most fun was the 3D renderings of the spaceship.
Oh yeah, those are great.
I love that, and that's happened. That's happened a little bit less in recent years, but I love the 3D renderings.
And
of the
wasn't
ship.
that like helpful? Because
He
you
uses
Oh my
them all
God.
the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
He uses
and
them
honestly, if any
constantly.
of you like to do 3D renders of ships, it means so much to me because it's so fun to find a weird angle that I wouldn't have thought of, where the rings line up nicely with the nacelles and all that sort of thing, and to draw that. So it's so fun to have those 3D renders, and yeah, they're great.
I think the handsome man in the back has questions.
He's
Well, one
very
line-
handsome.
Yeah. So, when you created Drive, not only did you create a story around characters, you created a universe, which is I would argue a level above world building or universe building. What advice would you have for aspiring writers that are looking to create their own universes to tell a story?
Don't do it. It's only for me. For Dave only.
The trick is, and I hope that I don't fall into this trap myself. So I say this with humility: is that I always think you have to make sure that the world building doesn't come before the story, because if the story and the characters are compelling, then it gives you freedom to say, like, let's for a page explore what this alien species would be like 1,000 years ago when they were evolving. But if you throw too much of that into your story, boy, it can really slow things down and ruin it. You know, I think we've all come across that where someone does too much.
It's probably the issue of like the Valerian movie, where like everything is really cool around it, but like, oof,
How dare you?
I'm sorry.
That Valerian was a
Besmirch
piece of art.
Valerian.
Fred is the president of the Valerian
The Valerian fan
The
club of Los
Valerian
Angeles.
movie flying.
We wanted that movie to be so good. Remember?
Yeah.
we
We saw
were
it
so
together.
excited. We saw it together. We wanted that to be so good.
Yeah.
I was like, damn it, let there be a good Valerian movie, and it wasn't good.
Well, I think that's gonna
But
probably wrap it up, right? You
yeah,
have
well, no, I
more
was just
to
gonna
add?
say, but I'm very aware that I don't know that I'm doing it well all the time, but I think it's just the matter of also I love the idea of building realistic aliens and species and planets, and try to do it where not everyone is wearing the same uniform on that planet, because that always bothers me when it's sci-fi and everyone comes in the same silver outfit with the V, you know, that kind of thing. So the idea that species are different and have differentiation and personalities within that. You know, not everyone on Soviet planet acts like a Soviet person. Not everyone on Star Trek used to have that problem. But anyway, if you make the story fun, then it gives you a little more leeway to make a fun world. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
One last question. I mean, there's a lot of humor in Drive, and there's a lot of serious, poignant moments as well, a lot of action. Do you find it's a serious story told funnily, or is it a funny story told seriously? Do you think about that?
Oh wow, that's a good question. What do you think of that?
I think it's a serious story told funnily. That's funnily.
Funnily a word?
It is now. It
Wow.
is a
Full
bad
of
word.
humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Told with humor. Yeah, because the characters tend to bring in the punchlines, but there's serious stuff going around them.
Yeah. Boy, this is a tricky. I don't know why I'm having
Yeah,
trouble.
it's
If I had to guess, in my heart of hearts, what I think it is it's joy-filled people in a crappy situation.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Because it's, I mean, I think there's some really funny jokes in Drive, but there's also some really, poignant drama too.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting tone to watch. What's been fascinating to watch is other writers and artists in the Tales from Drive to try to capture that tone.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think they've done
And what's great is some of them are like, I'm focusing on the tragedy of it, and some
Right.
people are like, I'm focusing on the humor. I'm going to mix it up.
Yeah.
But for me, one of the moments that like really is a kind of a through line of the story is there was a moment where one of the three cousins, the three primos, he's talking to one of Skitter's people, and he's like, you don't always get to choose the time that you're born into, and it's shitty that we're born in this time, but you have to rise to the occasion because you have to face it. You can't. And that's kind of the through line of the background of the story, is that these are all good people that don't want to deal with any of this, but they kind of have to because that's the nature of the story. So.
Well, speaking of that, thank you for you good people
The good,
All you
honest,
hundreds of
decent
great
people.
in this crazy situation. But yes, thank you guys all for coming, and thanks to
Yeah, honestly,
Dave
thank
and
you.
Beth for
And if I haven't
Thanks,
caught you
Brent.
down at the booth, please come down for a sketch. I want to say thank you in person. I think I've gotten most of you, but thank you all for coming. I appreciate it so much.
All right.
Have a great night, everybody.
Yeah.